Woohoo! Welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about solving equations. But instead of getting an answer like x equals 5, we're going to be manipulating formulas so that we can rewrite them in terms of other variables. In this first case, we've got an equation that says capital A equals capital P plus capital PRT for P. And I happen to know that this refers to a formula in economics. It has to do with interest and in accounts, but you don't need to know that. In order to solve this problem, you just need to know the techniques for manipulating the different parts of an equation. One note I want to make is it's really, really, really important that you don't change the letters. Specifically, if it starts with a capital A, that is not the same thing as if it goes to a lowercase a. And the reason for this is that in many of the other fields, so outside of mathematics, there are fields like economics that uses both lowercase p and uppercase p for different things. So does physics. I believe so does chemistry. Pardon me. So many other fields use both the upper and the lowercase letters, so do not change them. If you're given uppercase and lowercase the way it's given, leave those be. They are not interchangeable. Okay, so I'm going to start with A equals capital P plus capital P RT. And now what do I want to get? Well, what I want to get is, by the end of it, I want to get an equation that says P equals, instead of A equals, I want P equals some stuff, whatever it is. And what's really important is that there's no P on this side. We can all agree that that's important, right? We're going to have our friend Yoga Skeleton reminding us that as we work through this problem, these problems, we need to make sure we do the same thing on both sides. We need balance, right? Okay, so this first one that I started with is a very famous one because there is only one way to solve it. And hopefully you've seen this before. And if not, then it's good that I'm going over it because there isn't another way to solve it. You are welcome to try moving terms around. It's fun. You can add things to both sides. You can subtract things from both sides. But there is only one trick that will make this work. And it's kind of sneaky. So I always start off with this one so that you know it, right? And the answer is, the first manipulation you need to do is to factor out the common P. So I'm going to factor P out of P. Now, if you factor something completely out of itself, you always leave a 1 as a placeholder. And then if you factor P out of something like PRT, we end up with just the RT left. So take a look. So how do I check this? Well, you think about the distributive property. P times 1 is P. P times RT is PRT. Okay, there we go. What is so great about this trick? Well, what's so great about this trick is we started out with two terms that had capital P in them. And now we've got a single capital P written. Now the two terms are still there, but we've just combined them. And if you don't take this step, you can't solve any further. Because what's really important is when we solve, we really want whatever variable we're solving for to be by itself on the left. So now, do you see the next step? Maybe some of you have seen this before. P and then parentheses, what's hiding in there? It's an implicit multiplication. So to get rid of it, we divide. You got it. So I'm going to divide both sides by 1 plus RT. And students often ask, wow, you take forever to write these out. Can I use shortcuts? And the answer is sure. I am trying to write out notes that will be legible for people even if they don't watch the videos. I try to write nice and big because I do have some trouble seeing and I do have some trouble with my processing. So the bigger I write, the lower the chances I make a mistake. So this is helping myself and hopefully helping you as well. Okay, I am dividing both sides, right? We've got that balance. I divide both sides by 1 plus RT and it cancels out over here. I leave ones. And again, that's another thing math teachers are required by law to do. You don't have to. I just remind you, when you cancel something completely, you don't get 0. You actually get 1. Same reason that this is 1. When you factor P out, you don't get 0, you get a 1. That's the placeholder for what was there. Okay, so then I've got A all over 1 plus RT equals, and then this all canceled out, so I've got P. Last thing I should do, and then this is a matter of style, because as far as I'm concerned, you're done. But a lot of people don't like to read right to left. So a lot of folks will rewrite the equation, the way you would expect to see it. But I will, to the day I die, stand behind this as a correct answer. Okay. Now, this is somewhat unsatisfying for some people because you don't get an answer, but this is incredibly useful. Rewriting equations in terms of other variables is something we do all the time, coming up with a different way to look at the formula. For example, the formula as this one started, this tells you if you know the P, the principal, or the present value, how much money you're investing. If you know how much time you have and what the interest rate, R, is, then you can calculate how much money you're going to have. Okay, so that's fine. That makes sense. If I know how much money I'm starting with, I can calculate how much money I have. So why go through all this trouble? Well, if someone has done this, then we get this new equation, which is a lot more like what humans think. If I know how much money I want to have, right, that's what I'm going to have at the end, and the interest rate and the time, then it'll tell me how much I should invest now. So it's the same equation. It's the same relationship between all the different parts. But as a human, this is set up in a way so that I can use it to find the thing I'm curious about. So that's one of the reasons we rewrite equations. There are lots of reasons to do it. And so it's something we're going to practice a little bit. So that's the first one. Woohoo! You guys ready? I should probably put this one up and we could do a whole Jaws theme. Okay, ready? Da 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 da. Wow, that escalated quickly, eh? Again, I am assuming that you have practiced this before. Now, it might have been a really long time ago, in which case, please, if there isn't enough homework, and I know that's a ridiculous sounding thing, but if I have not assigned enough homework so that you feel comfortable and you feel ready to move on, please come talk to me or talk to the tutors. We can easily give you more problems. If you want to practice, and that's the best way to get better at math, then, just let us know. But so what I want to do here in the video is keep it short and sweet. I want to show you the things I think you want to know. And this one looks just like what is the hardest one, I think, in the homework. So I wanted to go over this as a nice refresher. A nice refresher, right? Woohoo! Okay, so we can all agree that there's a lot going on in this, right? We got A's and B's. And one of the things that I'm going to ask you a lot in this class is I'm going to ask you to trust me and trust yourselves. And I want you, and I know you don't know me at all. In fact, if all you've been doing is watching these videos, you don't even know what I look like. I mean, you know what my hands look like, but you don't know me. And so I'm asking you to trust me, and that seems like a lot. But I do want to ask you to trust me that I will not give you a problem you cannot approach. Some of the problems I'm going to give you cannot be done. And that's an important part of this class, is for you to say, this one cannot be done. And I say, yes, you're right, it cannot be done. You have to be able to recognize the things that you can't do. It's not, math doesn't always work on everything. There are some things where we're just going to hit a cliff and say, that's not something we can approach or do with the techniques we have. I'm going to ask you to trust yourself that you can take the first step and don't worry about the 45th step right now. There is no 45th step. There is only the next step. And that is the best way to do math. A lot of folks can't get started if they can't imagine the end, and I understand that. And I feel for that because I'm very much like that. But for this class, I'm going to start asking you to take the first step before you know that you'll be able to finish the problem. Because otherwise, sometimes you just get stuck in a spin. So I'm going to say, let's take a quick look, but not so long that you start to panic. You say, okay, there's an equal sign, so that makes it an equation. We know it's an equation. Good. We know it's an equation with fractions. Okay. So I'm going to ask you, what's the first thing you do with the equation with fractions? You clear the fractions, right? So let's take a look, a bigger look. I like to write it out. 2 reasons. One, I like things to be bigger, again, so I can see it more clearly. But also, I want to write a second copy of it for myself so that I keep a clean copy that I can refer back to. So if things go really off the rails, I can start over again. If you start with the printed one, you can actually mess it up and not be able to see what was there. So I just try to keep a clean copy up there, and then this is my copy. Okay, so there are fractions. Whenever there's fractions, you write LCD, which is, a prayer to the god of mathematics, I think, or it stands for least common denominator, or lowest common denominator. And so I want to look, I've got a B and a B and an A. And so I've got to figure out what will cancel those. I know it's got to have at least one B and at least one A. Do I need 2 B's? To be or not to be? That is the question right now. And the answer is just 1 B, because this B and this B are not happening at the same time. So if I have a single B, it will cancel this, and then it will cancel this separately. So we're okay. If there were a B squared in one of these, then I'd need to use a B squared. So I'm just going to use an A and a B. Now, if you pick the wrong LCD, is that it? Is that the end of the world? No. You cross it out, get another piece of paper, and start again. And gotta be honest with you, if you don't have to restart at least one problem in this class, I'm very impressed. Seriously, very, very impressed. And I'm realizing even as I write this out, I've forgotten to do something. And maybe you can figure out what it is. So I'm going to take a pause. But let me write this out, and then I'm going to draw some boxes. Because you know me, I love those boxes. Woohoo! Box! It's a box party. So what are we doing? I am taking the equation, and I'm giving everybody out this AB over 1. I'm Oprahing the AB over 1. Why is it AB over 1 instead of just AB? These are all fractions. They're all rational expressions. And so writing it as a fraction makes it easier for me. Does it make it easier for you? If it doesn't, don't do it. If something else makes it easier, do it that way. Seriously, that is literally my approach to math. Okay, so what was the thing that I forgot before we get any further? We're going to take a pause on that. I forgot to note the denominators can't be 0. So we just make a note. If it doesn't already say that, we make a note to ourselves. Okay, that means that we're allowed to go ahead and multiply. If we multiply by A and it turns out it's 0, then it's just like a disaster movie again. Okay, so red pen of destiny, let's do it. Explosion noises, commence. Or you could even do like a pew pew. You can explode. You can make popping noises. Can I make a popping noise? Like that. We can pop the B. I can explode the B. I can pew pew the A. Pew pew. And each time, if I'm canceling them and there's 1 on top, 1 on the bottom, I'm leaving 1s in their wake. Okay. So far, so good. What did we do? We saw an equation. It had fractions. So we clear the fractions. Right? This is called clearing the fractions. Okay, that's what that's called, clearing fractions. Now let's take a look at what's left. We don't panic. Don't worry. I know it's easy at this point. Some of you may be looking ahead going, oh no, they're going to be squares. What am I going to do? And the answer is you're going to deal with that when you get to it. And you're going to be awesome at it. You've gotten this far in math. Just keep going. Okay, so we've got that. So now what do we do? Well, whenever we have an equation, if there are parentheses, multiply out, right? If you don't see another path, let's go ahead and multiply out. Okay, a times a is a squared. Not panicking that there's an a squared. A times 1 is plus a. Okay. Over here, a squared. Interesting. Minus a. Ooh, interesting, huh? Okay, b squared. We love these b squareds and these a squareds. Plus b. Okay, so far so good. I have forgotten what we're supposed to do. So we're going to go up there. We're solving for a. Okay, so we need to get the a's on one side. Does it matter which side you go to? No. True story, it never matters what sides you go to. You can go to either side every time. Totally up to you. The sides don't matter. We've got some really great properties that say does not matter. It's just helpful for us as humans because we can't deal with, too many things going on at once. So okay, however, when I look at this, I see that this side is infested with B's. So I'm going to move the A's to the left, just because there are B's on the right. Could you move the B's to the left and leave the A's on the right? Yes, absolutely. It's totally up to you. This is your choice. But I'm going to move the A's over. Okay, so how do I move A's? Well, I'm going to subtract a squared. Okay, my brain starts to notice something interesting. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to try to convince you not to let your brain get in the way of the math. Because honestly, your brain is not always helpful. What is your brain really good at? Your brain is really good at seeing patterns. Your brain will see, oh, this pattern, whoa, weird things are happening, and then it panics. That's what brains do. That's what my brain does. Maybe your brain doesn't do it, but my brain tends towards panic when things are happening that I don't quite understand. And I have to just calm my brain down and say, you know what? It's just a pattern. Don't worry. We've done this. Every other math problem we've gotten through, we've survived. Okay. Unless any of you are watching as ghosts, in which case I apologize. I didn't mean to, leave you out. So I would say most of us have survived most of the math that has befallen us. So if I subtract a squares from both sides, right, same thing, here's the equal sign. Over here on the left, I've got an a. Over here on the right, I've got the opposite of a plus b squared plus b. Now, your brain is going to see a minus a and say it's 0. Don't let your brain do that. Don't rush. So that's the other thing is while you're trusting yourself, one of the things your brain will do is your brain will try to get you through scary things as fast as possible. And you need to slow yourself down and say, nope, I've got to write every step very carefully. Especially when things get scary, write bigger, write more slowly. Okay, I'm moving things to the left. So this minus a's got to go. So the opposite of that is a plus a. So I'm going to add a to both sides. Okay. This cancels out here. So over on the right, I've just got the b squared plus b. Over on the left, I've got a plus a, which is 2a. You got it. Okay, what's the last step going to be? Well, I've got 2a. I want 1a, so I'm going to divide by 2. And then I've got b squared plus b all over 2. So, and here I'm going to cheat a little bit so as not to go onto another page. I'm going to just write it sideways. I apologize. I'm going to get a equals b squared plus b over 2. And this is earnestly, honestly, how I would like you to approach math problems that you haven't tried before. So what are the steps again? The steps are, if you start to panic, try to recognize the pieces of the problem that you already do know. It's an equation, it's got fractions. So we look for an LCD and we clear the fractions. Cleared the fractions. Wonderful. Simplify what we've got. Excellent. Start figuring out how to organize. Let's put the A's on the left. Great. We just keep moving the A's to the left, and then bam, we end up solving for A without really knowing that that was going to happen. We just followed the regular steps. Okay, nicely done. This is the end of P.8 and the end of the preliminaries chapter. Woohoo! Yay! So, definitely go take a bit of a break. Don't launch right into the homework unless you're just very excited and want to get it done. Get a break. Look at something green. Get outside, get some fresh air, do something fun. Be gentle with yourself and appreciate that you were able to sit through this and you got through this. This stuff is thick. It's hard. It's not obvious. It's not easy. Just because the book calls it basic does not mean it's simple. So, congratulations, you did it. And next up, we're going to move into chapter 1. Woohoo! This is very exciting. Math on.